Okay, so we're starting now the last session in our summit. And for this session, we're joined by Alec, who is part of Banya's marketing team, and he's going to guide us through this last part of our summit. He's going to introduce our special guest, and at the end, we will have some time for a live Q&A if you have questions for our guest, but also if you have questions in general for Banya staff, we will be here to answer all of them. So Alec, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Mappa. What a great day it's been. Everybody, it's just been wonderful. I've been here all day hearing the amazing stories and just seeing the difference that fostering truly makes to children's lives. And just seeing that video, it makes my heart move every time I watch it, just seeing the amazing work that Banya does and all the Banya carers. But we're really, really pleased today to finish our session by having a VIP come and share their story. They're a care leaver, and they're going to be really sharing about what fostering meant to them and the positive impact that fostering had. So I'm very pleased to introduce our VIP speaker, which is Sandra Burns. Can everybody see Sandra?
Hello. Oh.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, Sandra.
Hi.
Sandra, you are a very successful entrepreneur now. You are known all around the UK. You work with some of the biggest brands in the UK, and you really have built a very successful career. You've just moved into a big stately house for your new offices, and you've gone from strength to strength. But your life didn't start off very easily, and you would even say very shaky foundations. Tell us about your background. Tell us who Sandra Burns is, and tell us about your fostering experience.
Would you like me to start from the very beginning?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my mum had quite a challenging upbringing. This is what I'm guessing. I don't know. And she had sort of 2 or 3 different men in her life. She had a 7-year-old boy, and she had a 4-year-old girl, a 2-year-old girl, and then I came along. So I think it was just really challenging for her, and I don't think she could cope in life. And, it was a really shaky start when I think back. But my story is a really, really positive one overall. And, there was just one day where it just must have been really bad. And she put all of us to bed, and she set the house on fire and walked out.
My goodness.
Wow. So, we were all saved, by the way. So, from a drama point of view, so I was 6 months old at this point, and we were all saved. It was amazing that we were all saved. And straight away, the 7-year-old, Martin, Margaret, the 4-year-old, and Anne, the 2-year-old, they were taken into social services care. And they couldn't take me into care at being 6 months, so they needed to find emergency foster parents. And at that point, my first knight in shining armour came along. So this was Salvation Army officer who was in the area. This was Ivor and his lovely wife, Mavis. They ran the local Salvation Army, and they'd got 6 children of their own, but they were all kind of grown up already. Well, they were sort of teenagers, the younger ones were. And they'd just come and got me. And I was in a dirty, smoke-filled nappy, and all that they could find was half a carrier bag of things to just take with me, basically.
Wow.
So, my brother and sister, the sisters, they went one way and I went another way. And I was introduced to Ivor's daughter, Heather. Now, Heather herself had had quite a difficult time. She got misdiagnosed with polio. She didn't have polio, but she got misdiagnosed at 13. And at 13 years of age, she knew that she couldn't have children. And this had deeply affected her. And she was now 16, and she saw me. And that was it. We were inseparable. Oh. She just looked after me. She did all the nappy changing and the feeding. And, Ivor and Mavis, they got day jobs, as it were. And, social services, they didn't really know. I mean, this was in 1974, so they didn't really know what to do with me, to be honest. And they were quite happy for me to stay there because they knew that I was safe, and, Heather had grown this bond with me. So it got to me being a year old. And at this point, Mavis and Ivor were already set to go to India to be missionaries.
Wow.
So the question came up, right, what's going to happen to Sandra? Are we going to get her back with her family? Are we going to find separate foster parents for her? And when all this was going on, Heather was just beside herself. She was like, she's like mine, she's like my child, this is the opportunity. And so they went to the court and they tried to get kind of, fostering rights for Heather. And they were like, she's too young. She's got this disease. We don't know how it's going to affect her. No, she's just, she was 17 at that point. So amazingly, Heather talked her boyfriend's mum into fostering me.
Wow.
Just temporarily. And they wrote to social services and they had a meeting with social services. And they said, look, we're going to get married. We'd love to adopt Sandra later on. Can Kev, who was Heather's boyfriend, can Kev's mum and dad, who are in their 40s, can they foster Sandra until then? Wow. And so social services said, OK, but look, we're not going to make any promises. You may not be able to adopt her because the family unit has to come first. And we want Sandra ultimately to be with her brother and her two sisters. And, they still kept me in contact, obviously, with my brother and sisters. We used to go and visit at the home. My brother, at 9 years old, actually broke onto the roof one night in social services with my younger sisters to come and get me at one point. So that was obviously really difficult. I didn't know any of this, of course. And so it went on and on really. And we got to 5. I was 5 years old at this point. And I then lived with Harry and Alice, who were Kev's mum and dad. And Heather and Kevin went on and they got married. And Harry and Alice were my legal guardians, and they were, of course, a little bit older and a bit more traditional back then, and they were very strict, actually, and so I'd got this kind of nan and granddad, mum and dad. Yes, but then I'd got this wonderful, like, younger mum and dad, as I used to call them, Heather and Kevin. So I had this really balanced kind of growing up period. And then the lovely Ivor and Mavis, who went off to be missionaries, they were nan and granddad.
Wow.
But what used to get really difficult was explaining to people that my mum was actually older than my nan and granddad. That was a really interesting conversation. Yeah. So we had this and it went on really. And I guess it saved me because I watched my poor brother and two sisters struggle on. They went to different homes. They were placed in different kind of families. And, sometimes it would work and then other times it wouldn't. And, they were pretty wayward, really. And I guess I was the lucky one. I really was the lucky one that had a different opportunity, I guess.
Well, you describe yourself as a lucky one. I mean, that's how you say. I mean, when you look at your siblings and what happened, you actually say about the positive impact that fostering care had on you, Sandra. Just talk a little bit about that, the positive element of fostering and what it made in your life and how you do describe yourself as a lucky one.
Yeah, it was so positive. I think I knew from a really early age that I'd had this opportunity that my brother and sisters didn't have. And the thing about my foster parents were they always answered my questions, however difficult my questions were. I was curious and I wanted to know about my mum and dad. And there were things that no one knew, like no one knew who our dad was, you know. So I would say, well, how can I find out? And they'd say, well, we don't know. And social services didn't know. But they were always really honest with me. And the thing that used to grow my confidence is they used to tell me that I was a special person and that I'd actually been chosen, and that I was a gift to them. And I think this started to grow my confidence a lot as a child. At first, it was really difficult. When I went to school, it started to be difficult. So I was different. I mean, when mom picked me up from school, older mom, that is, she was in her 40s and she was blonde. She didn't look like my mum.
Yes, yeah.
That was something that I had to get over and deal with. And, the other thing is, I'm not sure what kind of culture or background or race I'm from. And so, kids used to tease me about that and talk to me about that. And that was quite difficult. And also, of course, I'd got this different name. So my name was Webster, my family name, and my foster parents were called Fletcher.
Okay.
So this was, really, kids can be really horrible, can't they? So, children would tease me, oh, you're not the child of, this old woman that kind of picks you up, or your mum's old, or your mum's not even your mum, all this horrible stuff. And all my mums and dads, because I'd got so many, my younger mum and dad and my older mum and dad, they sat me down once, and I was really, really upset one day, and I was still quite young. I was still at primary school, and they said to me, how can we help you with this? And I said, I want to be a Fletcher.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a Webster. Yeah. And so they made that happen for me. So they went into school and they just said, we want her to be known as Sandra Fletcher, not Sandra Webster. Yes, yeah. She's not giving up on her family, but, just to make life, she just wants to feel that she is a Fletcher. So that's what we did. And they sat me down as well. And they said, look, the reason why your friends are sometimes horrible, or these schoolmates or whatever, is because they don't understand. So why don't you tell them what happened to you? Yeah. And tell them that you've got this lovely family now. So I started to do that. So I would take my closest friends and I would tell them. And do you know what? It's strange because all through my life, I've told this story, and every time you tell it, it does get easier. Yes. And it's sort of become a positive. And I'll never forget, there was another lady that I met, I say lady, a schoolgirl that I met in senior school, and she was adopted, and she found out that she was adopted by accident. Wow. And it just crushed her confidence. And she came and spoke to me, and she said, I've lost my sense of identity and I don't know who I am. She said, how did you deal with that, Sandra? And I said to her, I never had that problem because everybody was always honest with me all through my life, partly because they had to be in some respects, because social services used to keep me in contact with brother and sisters. But really, they never, ever kept anything from me, warts and all. And I think that as I started to grow up and appreciate that this was all going on, I started to realize things that my friends didn't realize. So I started to realize that I'd got opportunities, and as a child that had been disadvantaged really early on in life, suddenly I kind of switched a light bulb on and thought, you know what, this is amazing. Yeah. And I began to excel at school because I would study really hard, and I think, gosh, I can really do this. Do you know what I mean? So,
I mean, Sandra, we've got people on here today that are thinking about becoming foster carers, that aren't foster caring at the moment. And what would you say to anybody that's thinking about becoming a foster carer, that's not started their foster carer journey? Can you just tell them about the impact that the foster carers made on your life, and what you'd say to people about, their thinking? I mean, you came from a very traumatic beginning, didn't you? I mean, the people who are taking you on.
I did, I suppose. because I was so young, I didn't suffer the trauma that other foster children may have. You know, I was so young. But I think from an early age, I understood how it could have been for me. I got that. You know, I used to visit my brother and sisters, and Alice would take me, and I would say to her, "Don't you leave me there."
Yeah.
You know, I would cling to her leg, you know, the whole time. You know, I was frightened of, you know, being left or, you know, being abandoned by her. And you implicitly trust the people that become your mom and dad. You
Yes.
just do. And the things that I would say that really matter was that the thing that particularly Heather and Kevin as younger mom and dad were really good at doing was talking to me normally, being honest, treating me not like an adult, but talking to me in an adult tone, so that it showed that they respected me, and they would say, "What do you think about this? You know, this has happened. What do you think?" Social services, they want you to go and visit. How do you feel about that? They gave me a voice, really.
That's
You know,
wonderful.
and I was curious, and they would answer my questions. But they also taught me the ways of the world, and gave me and encouraged me to think about things. So, you know, sometimes, you know, I might be a little bit narrow-minded about certain things, or, you know, there might be things that I would want to do and couldn't do. And they would challenge my behavior. And even now as an adult, we still have that relationship.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
I mean, Kevin and Heather are 63 now, okay? And, you know, if something's happening in my life, I don't know, like setting up the business, you know, Kev would say, "Okay, let's talk about this, right? What are the pros and cons? What are you thinking? What are you going to do if this happens? What are you going to do if that happens? What if it doesn't work out? What if you run out of money?" Or,
So
you know,
you really, I mean, you know, you're still in contact with your foster family. You know, you consider them to be your family.
they are my family.
Yeah.
Honestly, they are my family. That, you know, they used to, if I was having, you know, a crap time at school, I mean, I remember we were going on a trip to Germany, and I'd been known as Fletcher at this point, you know, for most of my life. But because I had to have a passport to go to Germany, all of a sudden I had to register as Webster. So then I got loads of 16-year-olds that thought they knew me saying, "Well, why are you Webster then? Why are you down on the list as Webster?" So, you know, that was a particularly challenging time. And I think that my foster parents would tell me, "Look, you can be anything that you want me to be,
Yeah.
and we are here to help you with that."
And how important was that for you, Sandra? How important was that to have foster parents that believed in you, supported you, valued you, and just saw you as an extension of the family? How important was that to you?
Incredibly important to feel like you're part of the family. So there was one particular uncle. This is probably a bit of a horrible story. I mean, it didn't affect me particularly, and I didn't find out about this until years later. So this uncle had invited my family to a wedding, and they said, "Oh, you know, it's okay, isn't it, if we bring Sandra?" And he said, "No, she's not family."
Wow.
And so the whole my family, so older mom and dad and younger mom and dad, said, "Well, we're not coming then."
Yeah.
And I didn't find out about that for years and years. And I was quite shocked when they told me that, you know, years later. But I think that the praise that they would give me, and they would tell me at any waking moment I was good enough. And there were things that would happen, like there was a school, I was quite good at singing when I was younger, and there was a school play, and I wanted to audition for it thinking, oh, you know, I'd get a little 2-bit part. And, you know, my dad said to me, he said, "You go to that audition, Sandra, and you sing your heart out." And I said, "Oh, okay then." And I did, and I got the flipping leading lady.
Oh, wow.
There are so many times. I mean, there was one time where there was an election, and I remember having a conversation, and Kev said to me, "So who would you vote for, Sandra?" I think I was about, I don't know, 12, 13. And I said, "Well, I don't really know." And he said, "Well, you better go and find out then, so we can have a chat about it."
Yeah.
And it was that kind of constructive challenge that was in a nice thing. And then he would take time to talk to me and ask me about things. And he wouldn't challenge me in a horrible, negative way. He would say, well, you know, if you don't know about that, maybe you should read up, or maybe we could like do something together. And it just really grew my confidence. And he would say, dream big, we're here for you.
You know, you really are a great example of the positive impact of fostering, because your siblings weren't fostered, but you was. And you know, look at the difference it's made in your life. You know, so anybody that is thinking about fostering, you know, or taking a child into their home, you know, you just look at what that impact's made in your life.
Oh,
Think
yeah.
about how your life would have been different if you weren't fostered.
Well, you know, I can tell you that, you know, my poor family is so damaged. You know, my brother, I think he got let down by social services a lot, and he was the eldest. And he said to me that one of the last things he said to me was, you know, I never forgive myself for not getting us back together as a family, because he had the weight of the world on his shoulders as a 7-year-old. Now, he survived. He became a butcher. I'm sure he is successful, but he did not want to be part of our lives. He didn't want to be, not just me, but my sisters. And he just went off and he lived his life. And I you know, I respect that, but he's damaged by it. My other sister, Margaret, she had a different dad to me. So she's blonde with blue eyes. You would never know we were sisters. I've got a picture of her at the end, which I think Alec will share with you all.
Yeah.
And Margaret, she decided that for her life, she wanted to go and find her real dad. And that was Mr. Webster, believe it or not. So she went and lived her life with, you know, and lived down there. The saddest is my sister that's 2 years older than me, Anne. Anne was really damaged. She used to run away. She got into bad things. And she ended up in prison, you know, and she wrote to me. We kind of had this amazing meeting. I think I was 16 and she was 18, and we actually bumped into each other.
Oh, goodness.
And we were amazed, because we were like, oh my God, you know, it's you. And she was like, it's you. And we went and had a coffee. And, you know, she said to me, she said, Sandra, you know, you've had an opportunity in life. Don't lose it. She went, go and live your life. And, you know, she'd been in prison. She's really struggled all through her life. But she said to me, you won't hear from me, Sandra. She said, because I don't want to damage what you have.
Yeah.
So she, you know, from that point of view, they've all been amazing in their own way, because they've never banged on the door or asked me for anything, or, you know, I would help and have an open arms for them.
But as you say, you can see the difference between you having a fostering family and having that support, that nurturing, and having that support, loving home, to them who went through the care system.
Oh, you just can't replace it. You know, feeling loved and wanted, you know, is everything. It's literally, in some ways, it's like being wrapped in cotton wool and protected from the world, but fed things enough so that you can cope with the world. You know, that's how it felt to me. And gosh, I knew how lucky I was.
I mean, I know you personally, and I know that you are, I think the philanthropy and the generosity of your foster parents, all the parents you've had, have made a massive difference on you, because you're a great advocate for charity. You do a lot of charity work, you give back, you know, that you really do make a massive difference. Just talk about that, Sandra, about how it's impacted you, and now how, you know, and you've now become successful, and now how you're making a difference as well. I mean, you are a success story for any children that are on here that are actually listening.
Oh yeah. We've just started. Well, we've just started, really. The whole reason that I set up the company, I've been in HR for a long time, you know, for quite a period of time. Guys, I'm just going to turn the light on here because it's gone dark really quickly. I'd done this this role for a long time. I'd been a director, but it wasn't enough for me. I wasn't getting out of being a director what I wanted to. I really wanted to give back to the community. So we set the company up, and I love helping people, and I do quite a lot for charity. We raise money when we can. We give donations when we can. I mean, working with Alec has been amazing, and we've just set up our corporate strategy, and we've adopted a few organisations as sponsored as their sponsor for charities. And we've just set up to be ambassadors for young children, for young people in the area. And what we're really trying to do is work with the DWP and other bodies to become an intermediary for the Kickstart programme, because we all really want to help young people get on the ladder and help them with their skill set, particularly children that are coming through the schooling system. Maybe they've not had the greatest of times, maybe they've not got great results, or they come from poorer backgrounds, or difficult backgrounds, and we want to be able to help them. So that's the sort of thing that we're putting our time and energy into, so that we can develop them and give them an opportunity. And nothing makes me feel good than that kind of stuff that we do.
We're starting to get questions coming in, Sandra, and I know Theo is actually one of the senior management team at Banya, would like to ask you a question. Theo, it's over to you. Do you want to ask Sandra some questions?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, Sandra, for sharing your story. I definitely picked up that listening and honesty is very, very important. My question really is more, what message would you give, say, child? I know that Alex has already asked you about what message you'd give a foster care, but what message would you give to a child that has just come into someone's home today? What message would you give to them?
I'd say, guys, you have got to trust in the system, because you've got to trust in the system, and you've got to trust in yourself, and you've got to let these people help you. I've seen other, people go through the care system, and it's like they push people away because it's really difficult for you to accept help for whatever reason. You guys, you can do whatever you want to do. And actually, people that go through the care system, they do become very resilient without even realizing it. And there's this steely determination inside, and that steely determination can be a negative, but you've got to fight it. It's got to become a positive for you. But the biggest advice that I could give any child is just try and be open to being loved and to being helped. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And there's so many challenges and so many trust issues that come from being placed. I totally get that. But you've got to give yourself time. But above all, don't be afraid of talking to people and open up and be honest. If you don't want to call your parent, I still call younger mom and dad. I still call them today Hev and Kev. I've never called them mom and dad. I refer to them as mom and dad. But at the time, I called older mom and dad mom and dad. And I remember having a conversation and saying, look, I want to call you Hev and Kev. And they just said, yeah, okay. And I think it's about managing the expectations of the parents and the child, but from a child's point of view, if the child wants something in a certain way, you kind of got to go with it. It's like, I would say to any child, just be honest. If you're frightened of something, if you're afraid, tell them that, and they'll help you do that. I often would go home with, like, gosh, this has happened today. One day I went home and I said to my mom, what's a packy? I've been called a packy today. And I said, I think I'm not sure what's happening, and because I'd got that open relationship and they encouraged me, they would say, tell us, tell us, and we're here for you. Then that trust, it slowly grows and grows and grows, and it cements. And the other thing I would say to foster children is, this is a gift for you. This is a real opportunity that you can embrace it, and you can do what you want to do in life. Don't let this background noise, almost, don't let it define who you're going to be. Dream big. And these people, these amazing people who don't know you, they take you in and they love you, they feed you, they clothe you, and they're there for you. Do you think, have I kind of answered your question?
Absolutely.
It's hard. It is hard. And I do understand that it was different for me because I didn't have that trauma background. So I know it's tougher for some children.
I think the honesty is both ways, isn't it? From what I'm picking up, it seems like honesty has got to come not just from you, but also from
the parents. Yeah.
And it's like listening. I mean, that's very important, for you to be able to feel that somebody's listening to you. Yeah.
And from the foster parent thing, I remember, asking them so many, like I remember saying, well, why didn't you have a baby? Why have you, those sorts of questions. And, they were tough for them to answer, well, and then I would ask things like, will I be here forever? Will they take me away? And those are really tough questions that, to be fair to my foster parents, they always said, look, we will fight for you, but we can't guarantee, because we're not, we're your legal guardians for now. But I was never adopted. I was only ever fostered. And that was something that stayed with me for such a long time. I was always scared of being taken away from my foster parents, but they were always honest with me. They never gave me any false guarantees, So I think, I've done a few notes for me just to keep me on track, really. And I guess a final note for me is there's huge payback for everybody concerned, because if you develop a relationship like I have, to me, they are just my mum and dad, and they've continued to be my mum and dad all through my life. They've been amazing. They have been amazing. And, in some ways I've started to look after them now. I mean, Alice's mum, I lost dad when I was 16. He passed away. He had a bad heart and he passed away. And but older mom is still going. She's 94. She's 94. Yeah, I mean, share the picture. Share
your picture. But Sandra, we're doing a live Q&A for Theo as well regarding Banya and caring. But I want to read some quotes out to you that's come through.
Okay.
Lizzie has put, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Sandra. It goes to show how important it is to have loving, caring, honest foster carers who truly love you, and how they can make a huge difference. Seeing you share who you are and seeing what an amazing lady you have become, it's always, as I say, you're not defined by your past, but by who you are now. Wow. Another person's part, I really enjoyed listening. I really enjoyed this listening, and what a difference it's made in your life. Just making a difference in one person's life is amazing and worth every effort. Sharing a quote that I read in my teens, it stuck with me. I'm 48 years old now. This is the quote: 100 years from now, it will not matter what your bank account was, the sort of house you lived in, or the kind of car you drove. But the world may be a difference, because I was important. Because I was important in the life of a child. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for all that you do, Banya, and fostering. Just loads of quotes saying they're really looking forward to the story, and thank you for sharing, Sandra. What would your final tip be? Somebody's put, I really moved by this wonderful testimony. Yeah.
I think, on a final note, I would say any foster parent wanting to do this, don't doubt yourself. Just do it. If you're even thinking about it, it means that you're thinking about it for the right reasons, hopefully. And, It truly is the gift that keeps on giving. You know, it just is. And that's it.
I'm going to share now the picture of your family. You can talk us through it. Hopefully everybody can see that.
Yeah, so the elderly couple on the right hand side, these are my knights in shining armor. This is Mavis and Ivor, the Salvation Army officers that come and get me, and they have passed away now, but they were amazing people anyway. And then in the bottom left, this is older mum, and she's on a scooter. She's on a scooter with my little boy Ethan, and these pair are the best of buddies. They play cards together, they play Monopoly together, they go on walks together. And you know, older mum is now 94, and she's amazing, and she'll still say, "You're the daughter that, you know, I never had the opportunity to give birth to," she always says. And she always says how, you know, she always kisses me and loves me when I go and see her. She's in a care home now, and she's got the onset of dementia, but she, you know, when she gives you a hug, you know about it. It's like a bear hug, you know. And then in the other picture at the bottom, there's the one with his thumb up. That's my lovely husband, Steve. And then there's Heather at the front in her wheelchair, and my dad at the back, Kev. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're like my best buddies. There's only 16 years between us, you know. Wow. You know, we do loads. This is one where we were on holiday together, and they're still so supportive. And I said to my dad, you know, I'm moving into this office. And he said to me, I said, it's a bit scary. And he went, San, it's the next step. He went, just do it. Just do it. Yeah. You know, so.
Fantastic. And I've got the next one, which I'm going to share now.
So this is a really old picture. So sorry for the quality, but these are my brothers, and this is my brother and my two sisters and me. I'm guessing I'm about 8 or 9 here. And so Margaret is the blonde-haired lady. I mean, you'd never know, would you, that we were sisters?
I can't believe how much Ethan looks like you there.
I know, poor kid, eh? And then there's Anne and Martin, who are my other siblings. And you know, I carry this with me every day because this reminds me where I'm from and how lucky I am. Every day I look at this picture.
Wow.
Yeah, it's always in my bag, always.
Wow.
Always.
Wow.
So I really hope that that's helped anybody, you know, thinking about, can you make a difference? You know, yes, you can. You can.
Thank you, Sandra. I mean, it's just so emotional to see. You know, we've heard from Rosie earlier, we've heard from Tom, we've heard from you, you know, foster children that have been now care leavers, and it's made an absolutely massive impact on your life and their lives. And you know, we just encourage anybody that's thinking about becoming a foster carer, you really can. It's not a cliche to say you change a child's life. You actually do change a child's life. Your foster parents changed your life, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I know they did. If I'd have gone into that home, if I'd have gone into one of those foster care homes, I don't know what would have happened, but I really wouldn't have been nurtured, and I wouldn't feel valued as a person. You know, I think it fundamentally saved my life.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Wow, thank you, Sandra, for joining us, and thank you for sharing your just amazing story, just being an inspiration, and you know, and just sharing the positive impact that fostering's made on your life. And I'm going to hand back to Theo and to Mappa, you know, because you can any questions coming in. If anybody wants to thinking about becoming a foster carer, Theo, what would you say to them? How can they reach out to Banya? How can they reach out to you?
Well, I think, you know, throughout the day, you've heard different testimonies, and obviously this, the one from Sandra, as another tearjerker.
Yeah.
But I definitely, you know, would say that anybody who's wanting to become a foster carer, pick up the phone, just make the move, you see, because, you know, if you've got particular questions you have, I'm sure I will be more than happy to be able to answer the questions, you see. So for me, just go for it. That's all I can say. Just go for it.
There's
Yeah.
many more. There's many more Sandras and Toms and Roses waiting to be helped. You know,
Yes.
many more waiting to be helped. There's such a shortage of foster carers, isn't there? We need much more. There's much more children that need to
Yeah.
have homes.
Absolutely.